Another Wednesday is come and gone, and I've got some comics. Let's talk about them. Hey, welcome to 9 Panel Grid. This week, we've seen reevaluations, temperature checks, and a whole lot of stagnation. But we're going to kick things off this week with Absolute Green Lantern number 4, written by Al Ewing with artwork by Janoy Lindsay. This was kind of like an okay issue. Kinda, sorta. What I can say is that this was a light week of comics, so I figure it's only worthwhile to dive in and really allow this series to get its hooks in me and really kind of develop into the story that I think it can be. And we're like almost there. This is the best single issue experience I've had with this series thus far, and it starts to kind of deliver on the mission statement that any book should have. We should have a reason to come back, we should have a reason to care for these characters, and we should have answers to some of the questions that we have, and we start to get these. We see the kind of the catalyst for the individual becoming a Green Lantern. We kind of see a better understanding of what's happening to our main players here, particularly some of the side characters and their interactions here, John Stewart, Guy Gardner, and we start to get a better understanding of what has control over Hal Jordan himself. The interaction with Abin Sur, I think, was the best part of the issue. I really like seeing how that is all unfolded and developed here, and I like seeing kind of the ping pong back and forth between that interaction, right, the catalyst for all this happening, and where we are right now within the present day. So it was kind of an effective issue here. Will it keep its hooks in me? I don't know. It's been 4 issues, and this is the first time that I can say that lacklustery kind of still enjoyed an issue. So we'll see. Time will tell. Again, short week, but I do think that this was the best thing for this series so far. Next up, we have Amazing Spider Man number 71, written by Joe Kelly with artwork by John Romita Jr. This is okay. It's okay. I feel like I'm still enjoying Amazing Spider-Man, which is a wonder into itself, but it's still kind of not doing very much. We get the introduction of this new character here, Hellgate, and we get like a little bit of background on the character, but not enough to make you kind of care about anything that is actually going on here. The entirety of this issue is really an extended battle scene, which is great. I kind of like that kind of stuff. You know, it's fun, it's actiony, it's something that a superhero comic should be. However, it doesn't really develop and push the story forward, and it doesn't give you enough to really care about the things that are actually happening. It's all Spider Man and Black Cat going against this character who we don't know why they're there and what their purpose is for the destruction that they're kind of creating. The dialogue that Joe Kelly crafts is still top notch. It's the reason I come back to this book. It's quippy, it's lighthearted, it feels true to the character of Peter Parker. Big strength of the series, big strength of the issue for this particular run. Again though, it's like I'm struggling to find the mission statement and the purpose for this series. And maybe that's kind of the antithesis of what they're trying to do. Maybe this is going to be a more episodic natured kind of superhero book for Amazing Spider-Man. Time will tell on that. We're very early on in the run. It's still a really fun issue. It just doesn't give you a lot to, I don't know, see where the run is going to be taking us. All right, let's talk Avengers number 28, written by Jed MacKay with artwork by Andrea Baccardo. This is one of those weeks where there's not a lot of books that were coming out, so it was a time to reevaluate, jump back in, look at some books that I dropped and see if they're worthwhile and see if maybe I made a mistake. I don't feel like I made a mistake with Avengers. This was an issue that, if you lean towards enjoying the classic style stories of the 70s, maybe the early 80s, this might be the book for you. I cannot say that it's the book for me right now, though. Those classic tones, those feels, I get the nostalgic factor of it. However, I'm not there anymore. I enjoy it and I really enjoy looking back at those, but I don't want them in current comics right now. And that's what this feels like. And especially when you're having such big ideas that are kind of like on the, the outer rim of your storyline, with the Avengers being in this, this gigantic spaceship of a city, and the technological aspects of it, it doesn't mesh and it doesn't fit with the classical style storytelling that's happening within the book. It just felt totally off kilter. I felt totally off kilter reading this issue. Was it the best jumping in point? No, because it's the end of a story arc, and I totally get that. But as a comic reader, that's the experience that you get sometimes. As you're trying to dive in and find out what it is that you like and enjoy, you just dive in. That's the way that you should do it. And you find out what is for you. What I can say wholeheartedly, for me, Avengers is not for me. But if you disagree, I'm really curious. Let me know in the comments down below. What am I missing? Next up, we have Birds of Prey number 23, written by Kelly Thompson with artwork by Sammy Basri. This was a really fun issue. I've had this guilt complex basically for not having read this from issue number one, considering it's a Kelly Thompson written book, and I'm a huge fan of her as a writer. And it was time to really give this a chance, right? And see what it's all about. And I have to say, I had a really fun time with this issue. It was an issue where it's the team with their backs up against the wall. The odds are against them. Their base has been destroyed. They need to figure out how to help their friend who is now under the control of this evil nemesis. And I had a blast with it. Kelly Thompson does a good job at telling these single issue storylines that kind of just fit within that single issue, but also call into the things that happened previously and give you a reason to come back for more. That's what I'm looking for with these kind of issues. It does it really in a great way. It makes me want to go back and reread the previous 22 issues, get caught back up, and start putting this into my comic repertoire because I think it was really worthwhile. The artwork in here really complements everything that's happening as well. There's some issues with the color palette. I think that there's some choices that are made here when there are characters under the control of this evil entity where there was opportunity for maybe something different here or something more bold. But overall, I gotta say, it looked really nice and everything was complementary to the story that was being told. So, Birds of Prey, Kelly Thompson, absolutely killing it. I'm excited that I read this issue here. With a new premiere issue, let's talk Captain America #1, written by Chip Zdarsky with artwork by Valerio Schiti. So, starting off with the artwork here, when I heard that Valerio was going to be the main artist on this book, I was really excited because I really enjoy their artwork. I think they're probably one of the best artists in Marvel's bullpen right now. And this felt different. And I'm still trying to kind of like come to terms with if it's different good, different bad, or just different altogether. What I do like is that the color choices made on this book really bring out a painterly quality. And that kind of evokes a feeling for me like when Jacob Phillips colors a book. It has that kind of feeling towards it where there's like imperfections towards it, but it's intentional imperfections. I really like the coloring of this book. The storyline in general, though, kind of calls into question one of my main concerns with Marvel and their sliding timeline is that we keep telling these stories over the years, and people that have such a kind of a grounded origin with a certain point in time, it becomes very odd when we see that sliding timeline take place and now the events start to slide along with it. It makes it kind of a little bit of a muddled mess, and I think that Chip Zdarsky does his best to maneuver along those things, but it just makes it really kind of clunky outside of the scope of anyone's really control besides Marvel itself if they wanted to really make this a linear universe where people can die and things can move forward. The storyline is okay. Cap is unfrozen. He's dealing with, he's coming to terms with this new world that he is trying to kind of, I don't know, experience for the first time and see all the changes from when he was unfrozen to now at this point in time. And it doesn't feel original, but it feels like it's doing enough to kind of make me at least a little bit intrigued. Was it fantastic? No. Was it bad? Far from it, though. All right, let's talk Daredevil #23, written by Saladin Ahmed with artwork by Carlos Nito. So, from what we can tell from the solicitations here, it looks like this run of Daredevil is really coming to an end here within the next couple issues. And you can tell that they're kind of doing single issue stories at this point. In fact, so much so that the cover has absolutely nothing to do with what actually happens within the issue. The fungal menace that Daredevil was taking on within the previous couple issues, that's already done with at this point. They're still on the cover, nothing to do with the interiors. In fact, Matt is now taking on this French crime syndicate and working with Cole North again and kind of trying to reconcile some relationships with Cole and Foggy Nelson and Elektra. So The cover is very deceiving. What I can say is that the artwork in the book itself is really good. Now, they had two inkers that were helping Carlos on this, and I can say that the latter half of the issue looks so much better than the first portion of the issue. Not to say that that was bad, just comparing the two, the latter half looked better to me. This is, again, it's a single issue experience, kind of one and done, gets you in, gets you out, and kind of sets up what will, in turn be the end of Saladin Ahmed's run. So there's a couple pieces of the puzzle that are placed in there, but it feels very much like the same stuff that we've been getting. Matt feels remorse over the actions he's been taking and the secrets he's been hiding. Elektra wants nothing to do with it and is not giving Matt the time of day. Matt fights bad guys, and that's the experience we get. So if you're looking for those kind of experiences, sure, check out the single issue experience. But knowing what we know is coming down the pipeline here, maybe you take a break and wait for the relaunch of this book here to see what the new creative team is going to be able to do. Next up, we have Immortal Thor, number 25, written by Al Ewing with artwork by Jan Bazaldua. So this sees the end of the Immortal Thor title, as it's going to be relaunched now, and we've seen it's going to be titled Mortal Thor. And we kind of get the explanation within this series as to why that is going to be. This has been a frustrating series for me, and it's been a frustrating end cap as well, because there's been a lot of big ideas, and this was pitched as the kind of the spiritual successor to Immortal Hulk, which was heralded as one of the best series within the last decade at Marvel. And this doesn't feel that same way. In fact, this ending does what it promised to do, which is to kill off the king of Asgard. That happens, and there's no rug pulling or anything like that. It is Thor. He does die, but not fully. And it starts playing with ideas that we just saw played with very recently in the earlier runs of Thor before Al Ewing came on. And it just feels like it's kind of rinse and repeat at this point. I'm not sure if this is doing enough to keep me interested to come back to see what Mortal Thor is going to look like. I think that there's the possibility that these ideas can be cool and exciting. I just don't know if I'm going to risk my wallet and my dollars to see whether or not that comes to fruition. So, Immortal Thor, I'm glad that I stuck around for 25 issues. I think that there was a lot of potential here, and there was some good, but overall it just kind of teeter-tottered for me, and it just kind of left me feeling like it was a middling series. All right, next up we have Nullhunter number 9, written by Michael Walsh with artwork by Gustavo Vargas. Another issue of Nullhunter hits, another fantastic experience I have reading this series. Again, it's this kind of the retelling in a cyberpunk world of the 12 Labors of Hercules, and I'm just having a blast with it. Every issue kind of gives you the episodic single issue experience, which I enjoy in the formatting that we have right here. This is no different, and this is Hercules taking on not Medusa, but the children of Medusa. And the Medusa character doesn't necessarily turn people to stone so much as she kind of like corrupts them and they become these technological beasts. And it's really cool how they've interpreted that. We also see our stand-in for Hercules, Clay. We've seen the relationships and the bonds that he's made really take hold in this issue, as it is kind of like a three-pronged attack that they have here, as each person has their mission to be able to kind of get this issue through and kind of see their journey ended. And we're getting closer and closer and closer to Clay taking on the hierarchy of Olympus, and that's going to be really exciting. So we know that everything's building and building and building. I can't say it enough either. Gustavo Vargas is not a name that I knew previously, and it's a name that I want to see on more comics moving forward. It's a gritty, textured approach on this, but it just works so well with the technological aspects. And it's kind of crazy saying that because it's a very organic approach to the artwork that he's doing. It's a really great experience. I've loved every issue so far. Next up, we have Ultimate Wolverine number 7, written by Chris Condon with artwork by Alessandro Capuccio. This series is giving us, at this point, every single thing we thought we would get from an Ultimate X-Men book. And this is really driving that point home, as the Winter Soldier version of Logan, now his mind is completely back under his control. He's with the greater team of X-Men-like characters that we know and love. And we're starting to see the team dynamic form here, with him talking with Kitty Pryde, with Gambit being in the mix. There's all of these other X-related characters, and it's pretty fun. Granted, this is like the exposition dump issue. This is where everyone is catching Logan back up, and he's coming to terms with the things that he did as the Winter Soldier, and they're trying to say, "Hey, you were mind controlled. It's not your fault," and he's kind of fighting back against that. It's very much the same struggle that Logan in the 616 goes through, knowing he was in the Weapon X program. Just kind of switch that around here with the Russian cabal of the Maker. So it was a fun issue. It was a needed issue because we kind of need to reset the table now that Logan is under his own control. However, it was very exposition-y. Alessandro is back on the book here. It looked really nice. Granted, I feel like the strengths of their artwork weren't on full display here, as there was not a lot of action. This was a lot of dialogue. This was a lot of talking heads type of issue. So he did that. He did that well. But knowing what he can do with an action scene, we didn't get that. So that was kind of a bummer, but it's okay. It was in service of the story. So overall, Ultimate Wolverine still continues to give us the X-Men feels that I feel like readers really thought they were gonna get with the Ultimate X-Men book. It just kind of is reconceptualized in the Ultimate Wolverine story. All right, let's talk Wolverines and Deadpools #1, written by Cody Ziegler with artwork by Roger Antonio. So this is Bring Your Daughter to Work Day for Wolverine and Deadpool, as they're investigating this mystery here, and they don't. Well, let me say this: Wolverine doesn't want to work with Deadpool. Deadpool definitely wants to work with Wolverine, and with them come the other versions. They're kind of their versions of themselves here, with the daughter of Deadpool and the daughter of Wolverine, and it was okay. I feel like this was a quippy issue that like leaned into that. It leans into the Deadpool aspect of it, where Deadpool will not shut up and Wolverine gets frustrated with that. And if you dig that kind of thing, if that's your kind of story, then man, this is going to be for you. There's parts of the character development and the character narration that I really enjoy. I feel like there's a good voice for some of these characters. Particularly, I like that X-23 gets her time to shine here a little bit. However, that quippy dialogue gets so tiresome so quickly for me that I feel like it's just kind of not the experience I'm looking for. There's a lot to like about this issue. I feel like artistically, it did its job, it did well. Narratively, we kind of get the experience you would expect from this being the title of the issue. Can I say it's for me though? No, not really, because we've already got that with a movie with Deadpool and Wolverine. I'm not sure if I need that and to experience that on the actual pages of a comic book myself. So I probably won't be coming back. That's a personal choice, though, not necessarily an indication on the issue itself. All right, we got another temperature check, so let's check in on X-Men #19, written by Jed MacKay with artwork by Netho Diaz. For a series that was really trying to get out of the shadow of Krakoa and start this new venture into this world of mutants, man, this series has really felt like they've leaned on the idea of Krakoa through and through and through. And this is no different. It was a perfectly fine experience, as we get to spend the vast majority, if not all of the issue here, with Doug Ramsey, who is now the not the herald of Apocalypse necessarily, but kind of like his stand-in. He's the one that's taking Apocalypse's mission of survival of the fittest forward now, and he's trying to rectify what that means and how he sees that mission statement and what he's going to change from Apocalypse's way that he approached it and how he is going to do that. So we got a lot of interaction between him and his wife, the character that was introduced in the Krakoan Age, and Warlock, and it's okay. They take on some agents of the Squad One, who have kind of like branched off of that and become this mutant hunting faction, and that was okay. It was fun. It was something that I think is going to need a little bit more legs to get through. It was a perfectly fine issue, but again, they're leaning on ideas that were developed in Krakoa, and I thought that they were trying to get away from that, and now it just feels like it's kind of like this one foot in, one foot out situation, which is fine, but it's like make a decision, kind of make your choice and move forward with that. Regardless of what it is, I liked Krakoa, but like, come on, just be definitive. That's all I'm looking for in these books. So Marvel just feels like they can't really make a decision. And I think you've heard that through most of my reviews at this point. Marvel doesn't know which direction they're going to be going here. And I got to be honest, I'm ready for them to make that decision. Hey, didn't I just mention Krakoa? Let's go ahead and talk about X-Men: The Hellfire Vigil #1 with a variety of writer and artists. This was fine. It was fine. It was the same thing that the Hellfire galas were in the past here, albeit there were, I don't know, there was less ramifications. This was kind of like the time slide issues, where we get little peeks into different factions of the greater mutant population, and we get to see some things that are going to be coming down the pipeline here. And one of them is exciting because of all the mutant books here, I think that Storm is the absolute strongest. In fact, I think it's one of the strongest Marvel books, period, and we get to see a look at how she is going to be impacted here sometime in the near future. Outside of that, though, not a lot of meat on this bone. Again, just like I was talking about with X-Men, I thought we were getting away from Krakoa. Just make a decision here. So we get to spend some time with characters like Dazzler in a celebratory way here, talking about what Krakoa meant. We get to spend some time with Kamala, who realized she was a mutant during the Krakoan age. And we get to see how she still has this uneasy feeling about being a mutant and being accepted into the greater mutant populace. But again, it was a celebration on something that ended. And so again, I'm going to echo the same thing I said on X-Men. Make a decision, X-Men office, make a decision, Marvel. What do you want to be? You ended the Krakoan age. So are you going to end it, or are you going to keep looking back? I don't know. I'm just ready for something new and different and bold, and it feels like a line-wide change needs to happen, not just within the X offices, but maybe Marvel. All right, we got no runner up this week here. It's just been one of those kind of weeks here, but we absolutely do have a top comic of the week. We're going to go ahead and talk about Resurrection Man #4, written by Ram V with artwork by Anand RK. All of the strengths of the series are put forth again in this single issue here, as we feel the warmth of this character, we feel the compassion of our main character, and on top of that, we also see a lot of character motivations because he is interacting with a future version of himself, and they're trying to put this project, this kind of, I don't know, this end game into play. And now we're seeing that even though this character can be resurrected over and over and over, and in essence, he is immortal, we see that he is still fighting the future just like all of us are. We're trying to hold it at bay, and he is struggling with that idea now. But he kind of does have a plan, and he jumps in head first. That's very cool. I like seeing that, the battle take place, if you will, although it's not so much a fist kind of battle, so much as a battle of the minds and a battle of the ideas. We also get to see some really cool backstory here on what has happened with our villainous character who has been gaining superpowers here through the consumption of other superpowered beings. And we get to see how Vandal Savage really plays more so into the mythology of the Resurrection Man himself. They've been really building this out, and it's made it really worthwhile, and it's made it really exciting to see these characters who I feel like just fly under the radar through and through, and they really get a time to shine here within this series. And it comes with, on top of that, an end cap that does kind of the same thing that really totally surprised me. It's someone that's gotten the spotlight very recently, but still is not a character that you see over and over and over in each and every DC book. So Resurrection Man continues to excite me. The artwork is stupendous. The narrative is great, pulls on heartstrings, really gives these characters motivation and makes them feel real, even though they are fantastical. I love this series through and through. It is absolutely worthy of Top Comic of the Week. So that's what I've got for you this week, but I'm more curious. What did you read, and what were your thoughts? Do me a favor, like, share, and subscribe, and be part of the panel. Leave me a comment down below. Thank you so much for watching. We'll talk to you next week.